I'm a CEO of 320,000 employees. People saw what I did, how I handled crises. So I've been getting job offers for the last year and a half. So to say, would you take a job in administration, or would I take it somewhere else? That's hypothetical. I'm running for office, and I'm going to finish doing that. I got work to do. I got more ribbons to cut before I finish up this term.
I'm angry because so often we think of this solely in terms of the dynamics of politics. But the reason that so many New Yorkers are fed up with politics as they know it is because of news like this. Backroom deals. And that is what this campaign is fighting. Not simply any other candidate that will be on the ballot, but the notion that New York City is for sale.
Welcome to New York One's Off Topic on Politics. I'm New York One's investigative reporter, Courtney Gross. Will he or won't he? Will Mayor Eric Adams stay in the race for mayor? That's the question we'll be answering this week after some bombshell reporting that said he could possibly, perhaps, maybe get a job in the Trump administration. And then Congressman Jerry Nadler announced he would be retiring and not seeking re-election next year during the midterm election. We'll talk about his legacy and, of course, the race to replace him on the Upper East and Upper West sides. And joining me for the discussion is our Bobby Cuza, somewhere upper.
I like that you said he may perhaps, maybe, possibly take a job in the Trump administration. We've got a lot of answers.
We do.
Yeah.
They should keep watching if you're on YouTube and watch, or keep listening if you're listening to wherever you get your podcast, because our Mena, Eric Adams extraordinaire, is also here.
I'm not extraordinaire, but I am here. So
I feel like that's the intro I always do.
Yes.
Podcast
and I appreciate it. I totally appreciate it. Yeah. I'm his little shadow that is with him all the time, unfortunately for him.
And he loves that. Yeah. He loves seeing Kel.
Loves is the most appropriate term to describe our relationship.
So the New York Times reported on Wednesday that advisors to President Donald Trump were discussing finding a job for the mayor so he could potentially get out of the mayor's race. There's been some reporting that maybe he would take a position at HUD, which is the Department of Housing and Urban Development on the federal level, or maybe the New York Times said an ambassadorship.
Yes.
Ambassadorship.
Yep, you got it.
Being an ambassador is what I should have said. It's a little bit easier.
Yeah.
I feel like that just...
That screams, I was going to say, that screams Eric Adams, because if one thing we know about him, he enjoys a party. He enjoys people who want to host him. Yeah. So like that fits
foreign countries.
Oh, yeah, totally. How could I forget that, Bobby?
I was about to say that, like, tease up the perfect joke about Ambassador to Turkey.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love it. So Kelly, you've been with him. What has he been saying about all of these press reports?
Obviously, he's been denying them. And it's not a surprise, because any question of the mayor not running for re-election is always denied by him. He said that he's going to continue running. He sees a pathway to victory, though the polls would actually... that or the polls or critics. And so he's not going anywhere anytime soon. And he actually took some shots at the New York Times saying that their reporting has gone by the wayside.
The mayor was like, he was hedging a little bit in some of those interviews.
I felt like yesterday on Wednesday, today's Thursday, I feel like today he's very strong in like denying it, but I feel like yesterday his campaign was strongly denying it, but not him. Even when I asked him yesterday on Wednesday, has anybody from the president's orbit spoken to you or anybody around you? And he said, even if they did, I wouldn't tell you about it, which to me, the easy response,
they did,
that leaves the door open.
What he also said that plenty of people approach him for a job, for boards, for different companies, that, he's the mayor of New York City, the largest city in the United States. So of course,
he's
job
offers
desirable
all the time. Well, and I will back him up that I've heard from a source that is happening, that there is behind the scenes, lots of these companies are offering him some top positions so that he does get out of the race. I think that would maybe be a more appropriate job for him. He likes to, I feel like that is in line with meeting people, rubbing elbows, not necessarily doing a lot of work, you could say.
Even though he does get stuff done, he doesn't do much work, allegedly.
But I mean, the idea of him getting a job in exchange for him dropping out of the race is just like such a bizarre
even if he were to get the job, how would that scenario...
legal? I don't know the legality behind it, whether or not...
if it
what
was
would be illegal if
right.
it were some sort of quid pro quo.
I mean,
guess.
certainly,
But
if it was Andrew Cuomo offering him a job to get out of the race,
Yes,
Right, yes.
that's-
Yeah.
Well, and that's
veering into something illegal.
whether the job comes to fruition or not. Also, like, how would that scenario work? Because, like, in my head, I'm thinking, I've been following the mayor for all these years. I cannot see him just like leaving with only a few months left in his term because he takes it so seriously, and he has this phrase, he's the second black mayor of New York City. I can't see him just saying, okay, bye, like getting an offer today and leaving tomorrow.
And letting Jumaane Williams.
Yeah, I was going to say, like,
for
the-
6
yeah,
months.
it's
Or
Juma-
not 6, whatever, September.
four months. But beside exact point, I can't see him going to who Jumaane and him do not get along at all. And like,
We should remind our viewers that's the line of succession. So if the mayor were to somehow, no longer be able to do his job, Jumaane Williams would take over. And our understanding is, I think it's even too close to the general election day that it wouldn't necessarily even trigger a special election. Like Jumaane would probably have the seat for the rest of the year.
But also the
Yeah.
mayor could agree not to really seek re-election, but then not take the new job until January.
well, that's
right? He could
so
still
that
serve
was
out
the
rest of his
scenario
term.
I have totally in my head. I can see him whether he takes a job with the federal government or in the private sector. He would say, tomorrow, okay, I would totally take this job. That's where I'm gonna go, but I'm not going to leave office until December 31st. Many people have done that before. It's not unusual. And then he finishes out his term and everything goes to plan for him. And actually, I think it would work for him because the worst thing you want, especially when you're in the incumbent mayor, is somebody telling you have to leave versus leaving on your own terms. And anything I know about the mayor is he likes everything on his own terms.
And if the writing is already on the wall, his poll numbers, he would need a miracle for an Eric Adams supporter for things to turn around as of this point. And we thought about those kinds of scenarios where maybe there was I don't want to wish this upon anything. If there's some big crisis and he stands up, and the Rudy Giuliani scenario,
Right.
like the September 11th scenario, if it weren't for September 11th, the Giuliani backing Mike Bloomberg, there's a big question of whether or not Mike Bloomberg would actually have been elected mayor. I think that's a scenario that Eric Adams would help Eric Adams. It would have to be something that large scale.
Yeah, something massive, I think, would have to really help him, give him that huge boost, because nothing so far, nothing so far has been helpful, because he keeps on getting hit with scandal or indictments around him. And it's just not not a good
reminds people
atmosphere.
that he was indicted for corruption, and that,
yes.
he's not necessarily going to be an ethical.
The most trustworthy,
Second
yes,
term.
mayor.
But whatever,
exactly.
whatever his re-election prospects, which are not great at this point, I was shocked that there was even a shadow of a possibility that he would consider this when this first came up this week, because he's been so stubborn, right? I mean, he has been so insistent.
Bobby, you're
that he's
totally
gonna
right.
continue
Bobby,
on
you're
it.
totally right. Stubborn is, I actually used that word last night, because he's the most stubborn person. Everything could show something bad is going to happen, and he would, obviously he's still running, and everything is showing that he's not going to get a second term in office. So stubborn is the most appropriate word. But also, I can't imagine him taking anything other than a job that he's appointed to or in the private sector, because I can't see him get reelected into anything else right now. So he would need, those are really the two only options he has at this point.
I think he must realize that. The people around him must realize that. His campaign spokesperson, Todd Shapiro, put out a statement kind of making fun of this idea that he would go work for HUD, because we know Andrew Cuomo under the Clinton administration used to run that agency. And he said Andrew Cuomo is the one that should go work for HUD, but it doesn't necessarily mean that these conversations aren't happening behind the scenes. In fact, the mayor, unbeknownst to us, was in Florida earlier this week. We know that he turns 65. He's a Virgo. Happy birthday, Mr. Mayor, if you're listening.
I did not know that.
He is. So he turned 65 over the weekend, and he was apparently according to the New York Times, Miami, having a good time
Partying in
celebrating his
South
birthday.
Beach.
Yes.
I asked City Hall at the time, I think it was Tuesday, asked them whether he was celebrating his birthday in Florida, because they didn't announce it on his public schedule. They just didn't even tell anybody that he had left. And they were like, why would you ask that? I'm like, because it's his birthday. So of course he's away. Anyway, I digress.
Well, I was just going to say, in his defense, many people celebrate birthdays for days and weeks and even months.
Oh, I celebrate for like a month.
That's what I'm saying. So it's like
I'm
not
doing the
unusual.
dishes. It's my birthday month. Sorry.
But
Exactly.
this is the whole. This is the whole root of this question, right? Who did he meet with in Florida?
The only person
and he mentioned
the mayor of Miami, who's
right?
a Republican and close to Trump.
Right.
So I feel like it's breadcrumbs that he's giving us.
Right, and if you parse his words the last couple of days in the interviews that he's done, he denies certain things, but not others. At one point in an interview on whatever that day was, Wednesday, he said he met with Francis Suarez, the Miami mayor, and other political figures. And it's like, well, what are political figures? And then there was reporting that it was people in Trump's team. Like, who is that exactly? He won't really say exactly who he met with or whether, what kind of offer was on the table.
We should. Oh, sorry.
I was
No, but he also, he hasn't exactly denied that there's some kind of conversation.
Yes.
And today,
I was going to say today, the only person he denied speaking to was President Trump. That's exactly what I was going to say. He didn't say anybody else. I've never been offered the HUD position, never asked for it, and I've never spoken to the president. But
because he'd rather be an ambassador.
Well, probably. Yeah. But then that doesn't speak to the advisors or anybody else near, has his ear, Castamatidis,
he was
anybody.
bashing the New York Times reporting, but the New York Times didn't say anything about HUD. So he's bashing the New York Times when nothing that he's saying is inconsistent with what the Times reported, which was the ambassadorship. And the Times also said it was intermediaries that were talking. They never said that he had a conversation with Trump.
Right.
So he's saying, I never talked to Trump and I never got offered a HUD job. Well, that doesn't preclude all these other possibilities.
Right,
We
exactly.
should note the whole reason why this is potentially happening is because of previous reporting by news outlets that said there was interest from the Trump administration to put his thumb on the scale and perhaps put his thumb on the scale in favor of Andrew Cuomo and to clear the field for whoever is the most viable candidate to defeat Zohran Mamdani. That is the desire of the White House as of this point. And it appears, according to polling that has been presented potentially to the White House, that Andrew Cuomo is that particular candidate.
Yeah, they want to. Go ahead.
I was with Cuomo just a few hours ago, I guess, as of this point. And
What did he say?
repeatedly asked whether or not he had talked to anyone in the Trump administration, had his team members talked to anyone in the Trump administration, team members on team members. Did that happen? He denied it, said the last time he talked to Trump was the same thing that he had said previously, that it was around the assassination attempt, obviously in 2024. But he did say he doesn't want Donald Trump meddling with his campaign. He said, Donald Trump shouldn't get involved with my campaign. And of course, the next question was, well, then Donald Trump get involved with other people's campaigns? And he's like, well, that's up to Eric Adams and Curtis Sliwa to decide.
I read the rumors, but no, it is up to Mayor Adams whether or not he wants to run or get out of the race. If he doesn't want to run, then he'll decide what to do next in his career.
We should note that as part of this reporting, there's been some discussion or some reporting that Curtis Sliwa would also be encouraged to step aside to make way for Andrew Cuomo. So it's a one-on-one race. And perhaps, we haven't seen reliable polling. I just went to double check because I was away and I wanted to make sure that we haven't
since
seen
June,
it.
since the primary.
We haven't seen a good general election poll. The Siena poll that came out was just such a small sample size statewide, so we really can't tell.
Well, my only question in all of this, right, is how does a Cuomo as mayor benefit Trump if Mamdani is the perfect foil for a Trump type of president?
That's what Cuomo says. That's exactly what Cuomo says.
And even for Republicans, we have the midterms coming up, and they need, if we know anything about Republicans, they love good messaging and good focus messaging. The idea would be Mamdani is their foil. This is
the Democratic Party.
Yeah, this is the head of the Democratic Party.
Socialist.
They're coming into a competitive primary, and what we do know about midterms right after a president is elected is it's usually a referendum on the president, and usually it flips the scales. If the president is a Republican, Democrats end up winning.
It's very
and
difficult to hold on to
to majority. Yeah, so I'm thinking, wouldn't this actually be the opposite? And then just thinking about Trump himself, the little bit that I'm not in his head, but I'm thinking this man is about messaging, about media, about policy making. Mamdani is the perfect person to always push his policies, being like, look at New York. This is why we need this. Look at New York. This is why we need this. So that's always my question in the back of my head. How would Cuomo, the political calculus of all of that?
Trump clearly, well, not clearly, my guess, my hypothesis to answer Kelly's question is they must, and the Republicans and Trump must be threatened by Mamdani somehow. He is energizing a huge swath of the electorate. Granted, it's the New York City electorate, which is going to be much more blue and much more liberal than the rest of the country. But the energy is palpable. Everywhere I went over Labor Day weekend, people were asking me about him. On one hand, they were saying, can he make it? Is he going to get elected? Is someone going to do anything to try to,
derail him.
kill his candidacy. And then I have other more conservative neighbors, friends, etc., who are like, or should we be really worried? What is he going to do to the city? Is there any way Andrew Cuomo could win? Should we
We're
move?
going to the suburbs, Long Island and Westchester.
Right. So, but the question is Donald Trump, because you also see this idea floated sometimes that Donald Trump, he is a New Yorker, right? And he doesn't actually, I think, care about what happens in New York City. So if there's all these people in his
billionaires in New York City.
Right. So if there's these people who are, wealthy New Yorkers, business leaders who are in his ear saying Mamdani's going to be a disaster for New York, this is going to be the end, and he still has business here, right? In spite of Tish James' best efforts. So Trump, maybe he, in his mind, maybe he thinks Mamdani is dangerous and is going to, spell the end of New York City. And so he really is trying to block him. And maybe to him, Cuomo is the best option. But Cuomo is in such a weird position because Donald Trump could help him, obviously, right? He could help his candidacy. But Cuomo can in no way be viewed as
aligned,
being tied to Donald Trump. So he has to go out there and say, I want nothing to do with him. He said in a press conference a few weeks ago, I won't take his endorsement. I won't accept his endorsement. Yeah. But if Trump helps him, in some part of his mind, he has to welcome that possibility. And then does it backfire? Does it hurt him for people to say, well, this guy is letting Trump get him elected, so why are we going to let Trump interfere in our politics?
At the end of the day, Bobby, this is a political contest. And for Cuomo, I think clearing the field for him is good for him. Anything that helps your candidacy as a candidate is going to be something good. But this one in particular, to your point, is very hard because Trump is not very well liked in the city. By the majority of voters. There's mostly Democratic voters in the city. So even him helping you in any way could be seen as you are tied to him. So no matter what Cuomo does, I think if Trump gets involved and somehow helps Cuomo by behind the scenes, that's going to be seen as they're coordinating.
Which, by the way, is Mamdani's angle too, right? I don't know if you were going to bring this up, but Mamdani.
I wanted to quickly just to hold on, just pause for a second. I did pull the poll numbers just so that we do have.
You pulled
the polls. I pulled the poll numbers from an early August Siena University now poll, a Siena poll. Just so there's statewide numbers, but President Trump's approval rating in New York State is 37.56. So.
Not great.
I was just going to say.
Make sure we had some facts.
I was just going to say, to that point of seeing them tied together, the mayor's federal indictment was dismissed, and Trump said he had nothing to do with it. But then he was like, he came to my office and thanked me. Yes, I was going to say. Till this day, though, everybody thinks that somehow President Trump got involved directly and helped the mayor out.
Thanked me for the little problem he had.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
But you're saying that, and that's hurt him, is what you're saying.
No, I'm just saying, in any way, if President Trump's name gets involved in whatever you might be doing I feel like in the city from then on, you're always tied together. Case in point is the mayor's federal indictment being dismissed, and Trump and everybody continues to tie those two together.
Maybe he's just worried about Eric Adams's job security and wants to get him a nice position because he is aligned with him. Who knows?
But Mamdani obviously thinks that this could work to his benefit because he jumped on this immediately, right?
The emergency press conference.
I know,
on Wednesday.
And he's
literally
tying Trump to Cuomo. He's tying Trump to Eric Adams, and then he also has this whole argument that this is an affront to democracy because it's Trump interfering with our own local politics. Which I feel like, on the one hand, yes, he is the duly elected Democratic nominee for mayor, and it's kind of weird that you then have these other Democrats trying to get Donald Trump to interfere. But at the same time, it's politics, right? Yeah. Nothing that they're doing is, illegal.
Unheard of, yeah.
Right? So, sure, he's the Democratic nominee, but if people don't want you elected, then they're going to try to find some other way to get somebody else elected.
Just to wrap it up, this is all to potentially create a one-on-one contest between Andrew Cuomo and Zohran Mamdani. I wonder if you guys think Mamdani still would have an advantage in that potential scenario.
One-on-one.
Yeah, the polling that we did see from Siena, which they said Mamdani had 44% of the vote, but the sample size, I shouldn't even reference it because the sample size is so tiny and that it may not be an accurate reflection of how people really feel in all of the 5 boroughs. But I'm thinking statistically, there's 1 million independent, unaffiliated, what we call blank voters in New York City in the 5 boroughs. There is an electorate out there. I'm just
I'm curious,
a few months ago at the end of the primary, we were like, oh, Mamdani's going to be mayor. And I'm wondering now, well, I don't know.
In a one-on-one matchup, the calculus changes for sure. But I will say, hearing Curtis Sliwa also had a news conference today on Thursday. Yeah. Curtis Sliwa is unequivocally not getting out of this race.
That's categorically not going anywhere.
He's not even a big MAGA guy. He's not even a Trump supporter.
No.
There's no way Curtis Sliwa was getting out of the race.
He didn't even want to work for Trump.
And Curtis Sliwa could get 15% of the vote in November. And if he gets 15% of the vote, that takes away from Cuomo probably, right? And that probably...
You need a twofer. You need them both to get out.
Yeah.
And we didn't even talk about Jim Walden.
I was just about to say that it really tipped off from when Jim Walden said on Monday or Tuesday earlier this week that he was dropping out of the race because of the threat that Mamdani was to the city, in his opinion. And since then, that's when the fervor started about who else could leave the race. I should point out, though, the only way to leave this race is like 3 ways at this point.
To get off the ballot.
To get off the ballot, sorry. To get off the ballot. Even if the mayor were to take a job, his name would still appear on the ballot. The only way to get off the official ballot would be to die, which is not happening.
Right.
A judgeship, which is also not happening. Or to move out of the state, which he already... Does he still have that apartment in New Jersey?
Right.
Okay, we're going to have to leave it there. Yeah. I'm going to move across the Hudson. Okay, let's leave it there. When we get back, we will talk about the legacy of Jerry Nadler. We have some exciting news for you. Mark your calendars. Monday, September 29th, we are going to do a live podcast taping right here in Chelsea. It will be a special crossover episode of New York One's Off Topic on Politics and Errol Lewis's You Decide. So we will be sending you some more details, including how to get tickets in the coming days. But we wanted to give you a heads up so you can come and watch us live in person.
I started thinking about it a few months ago, and I figured 2 things. Number one, it was a nice round number. I will have served 50 years in public office, 34 in the Congress, 16 in the State Assembly. And the example of President Biden showed me, I think, that we really need generational change in the Democratic Party, and I might as well proceed with that.
Okay, so he was first elected to Congress in 1992. Kelly, were you even born in 1992?
Yes, I look much younger than I am, but I was alive.
Wait, can I just say for the record,
a couple of months.
I was 9.
I was looking forward to telling you that Jerry Nadler took elected office before I was born. So just for the record,
okay, yes.
I'm not that old.
That's true. Wait,
it was 1977. It was when he first went to the assembly.
When were you born?
1977. Later in the year. I was born in November.
Okay. I would just like to put on the record that I was born in 1990. Okay, so.
All right, I'm 83. So now
Jerry
that we've
Nadler's been around for a long time.
Yeah, okay. So he helped lead. He was an impeachment manager in the first Trump impeachment in the first Trump administration, the first term. He chaired the Judiciary Committee, which is obviously an incredibly powerful committee in the House for a number of years. And he served, like Bobby mentioned, in the State Assembly in the 70s and 80s after Bobby was born.
Important note.
This is all to say he is obviously an institution of New York politics. He is the dean of the congressional delegation, and he is stepping aside, saying it is time to bring in a new generation of leadership, citing Joe Biden and what had happened to Joe Biden. And now he had people believe that he stayed in office too long. So the legacy of Nadler, Bobby, go.
Okay.
Go.
I'm not going to wrap that up. I mean, everybody, when all these articles have been written about Jerry Nadler this week, a lot of people cite the Trump impeachments, right? And head of the Judiciary Committee is a big deal. So he was part of the team that I don't know if prosecuted is the right word, but prosecuted the case against Trump.
You indict in the House and then you prosecute it in front of the Senate.
In front of the Senate. So he was arguing the case. But I mean, he is like, the Democratic Party, I think in a lot of ways has moved further to the left in the last 5-10 years. But Jerry Nadler for a long time was like a stalwart liberal, progressive Democrat, right? Like he represented everything that wing of the Democratic Party stood for. And if you look at, what he cited when he announced he was not going to be seeking re-election, it was voting rights and LGBTQ rights and, all the things you typically associate with the progressive wing of the Democratic Party. So, and he is a beloved figure on the Upper West Side, especially. But like you said, now his district includes parts of other parts. It's basically most of Manhattan above
both sides
below
of the
Central
park.
Park,
It's
above
Upper
14th
East,
Street.
Upper West, and
is-
it's actually 16th Street. Like Chelsea Market, I don't think is in the district. It's
Yeah,
like right outside.
it's a little
I was going to
jagged
say,
down
and
at the bottom
who
of the
can
district.
forget the Maloney Nadler race? That was such a big deal
Right.
because
After redistricting,
they both got redistricted into the same district. I was following that race closely. And to your point, Bobby, I met him at Zabar's one day, and I mean, everybody knows him. I mean, everybody comes up to him. He's very personable. He's been around so long. He's so well known that like people talk to him like as if they are like actual family members or friends of his. And he's listens. And to that point, I think he represents a lot of the values of his district: progressive, same-sex marriage to your LGBTQ point. He mentioned that also in his what he's been able to accomplish. And I think this is a good time to move aside if you want somebody else to take your seat, because it gives that person enough time to start running, start campaigning in time for the midterm elections. Because the last thing you want to do is, if you know you're going to retire, you don't want to do it so close to that midterm election that you don't give the other person a chance to actually run. And that's what kind of happened with Joe Biden and Harris. And I think that that's what he doesn't want to do.
Yeah, I mean, he said he saw what happened with Joe Biden, and that was when he realized the need for generational change, which a lot of people have noted is probably something a lot of other members of Congress might want to take note of. I was also going to say he did a lot of advocacy on behalf of 9/11, 9/11 survivors, health issues.
Because
He represented that district.
Yeah, his district. He actually used to have one of those districts that people pointed to as being like so bizarrely
Gerrymandered.
It wasn't exactly gerrymandered because it was designed to be a Jewish district, not an entirely Jewish majority district, but it sort of snaked down the West Side and then into parts of Brooklyn where there are heavily Jewish communities.
It was a gerrymandered district.
No, but gerrymandered for that reason, not like a
Not
Democrat versus
to have an
Republican
advantage or disadvantage. Yeah.
So then when it was redrawn, now it's just like the middle of Manhattan, which is obviously like a power base and still mostly, still very left leaning, but it actually was sort of split Cuomo Mamdani in the primary.
I think Cuomo
and by the way,
the first pick votes.
First round.
Mamdani won after the ranked choice voting, the district, but prior to that, for the first choice votes, it was Cuomo.
And by the way, Nadler endorsed Mamdani almost immediately after the primary, which was I thought was a little bit of a surprise. I mean, we've seen all these other prominent Democrats who have not yet endorsed Mamdani.
Yeah, and hesitant.
And it was vouching for, or maybe allaying some concerns of some people with the rhetoric around Israel and Palestine.
Right.
Obviously being a Jewish leader and a longstanding Jewish leader in Jerry Nadler.
Right. Yep. But that when the district got redrawn, it kind of changed the calculus. So then we saw the Maloney-Nadler race in 2022, which ended up, getting pretty contentious.
I got contentious, but Nadler won it.
He won handily,
yes,
right?
Yes,
but I recall quickly Maloney, who's Nadler's age, but nonetheless was bringing up potential senility with Nadler at the time and was already calling into question his age and whether or not he could continue to serve at the...
And Carolyn Maloney, I've seen her name floated. Like maybe she wants to come back.
I was going to say, how could she? How could she not? Though? At least consider it.
Right.
Not run. I'm not telling her to run. Consider it.
Generational change. I don't know if that's generational change, but okay. So who are the potential candidates that would be running? For
and the other funny thing is that I had kind of forgotten, but for years the idea was, well, Nadler at some point will step down, and his natural successor is Scott Stringer, right? And now Scott Stringer.
That's not generational.
Now he's sort of aged out of that himself.
Generation. No, what is Scott Stringer?
I don't know how old he is, but I mean, I feel like his political career kind of has this feeling like it's already run its course.
Yeah, it's over.
Right? He's run for mayor twice. And if you're really looking for,
I'm not saying it's over. I'm saying people think.
No, I like how direct you are. I like how direct you are.
I mean, Nadler himself is saying generational change, right? So that is maybe Michael Lasher, who's only recently been elected to the state assembly. But Michael Lasher, it feels like he's been around politics forever, right?
He worked for
Bloomberg. He worked for Bloomberg. He worked. He's worked under. I think was it the
Schumer?
he's worked under different administrations, so he's always had these jobs in politics.
So we know him, but general public.
And he's run,
doesn't
and he
know him.
ran.
Well, that's why you get the runway, right? That's why you start early.
And I mean, he's sort of a protege of Nadler's. So.
Yeah, I think Nadler has already even said that he would be the pick.
Yeah, in
he
the
told
Times
New York
article,
Times,
he said, I haven't chosen anybody, but that's who I want to be my natural successor. I should say, I just saw reporting that Micah Lasher, he filed, so he's going to run. So he's going to run.
Also
Eric Botcher, who is a council person for Chelsea Midtown Hell's Kitchen area, is also considering a run.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are considering.
Yeah, because
nobody expected this.
You get an open seat in
this is
New
like
York
a
politics.
once in a generation opportunity.
I was going to say in that area, but it's open, right? You're not going up against an incumbent or somebody who has name recognition. Anybody could take the seat, so it's an opportunity.
No, I mean, you could run through a list of like 20 names, and a lot of reporting has run through all these names. Some people have said that they're actually not interested in running. Like Liz Kruger, the state senator, said she's not going to run. I think Chelsea Clinton's name has been floated.
She's definitely not. Yeah.
And then there's Schlossberg, Jack Schlossberg. Am I getting that name right?
I'm not sure.
He's JFK's grandson. He's he's considering running. And a lot of these people are young. Alex Boris, the state assemblyman, he's, I think, 32, 33.
Yeah.
And he's sort of like a rising star in the Democratic Party. So that you see, I mean, you're going to get a lot of people jumping into this race. Oh, also Julie Menin, city councilwoman, but she's also running
for speaker.
She wants to be city council speaker. So maybe Brad Hoylman-Siegel.
Speaker, maybe she would run.
Brad Hoylman-Siegel is now probably going to win Manhattan Borough President.
Yeah.
So I don't think
he's going to run for Congress.
Well, I mean, he's one of those names that was like initially thrown out, but I don't think he's necessarily going to run. I'm thinking about running.
You gotta move, Bobby.
Bobby, you don't even
have to move.
You don't?
You don't have to move.
Oh, Bobby could be the next Congress member.
But the problem is, I think for that district in particular, you're going to have to be.
You have to be on the ground. You have to be on the ground. You have to be there, Bobby.
You have to be an Upper West Side resident because that is like a hub of votes. I don't even know about the East Side. But Carolyn Maloney didn't win, and that was a whole Upper East versus West situation. Okay. That's going to do it for this week's episode. Thank you all for joining us. You can watch us on Inside City Hall weeknights at 7 o'clock. And if you like what you're hearing, or if you don't like what you're hearing, send us some feedback. Send us an email at yourstoryNewYork1@charter.com. You can subscribe to Off Topic wherever you get your podcasts. And if you like what you're hearing, leave a review. And our producer is in the corner, Anthony Roman. Thank you so much every week for dedicating so much time to us and making us into a better show. And thanks for listening, everybody. See you next week.